Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Jamison Maxwell. Hopefully joining us later, Ty Lee. And look, the waiting is done. Ever since the moment we found out that OU was joining the SEC in the summer of 2021, we've been waiting for this moment. The actual SEC schedule. We've got the opponents. Now we have the dates, and things feel more tangible, for better or for worse in some cases. We're gonna get all into that. But Jamison, I just want to say, welcome back onto the show. And what are you excited about? Just looking for this. Did anything surprise you?
Yeah, let's talk about the good things first, because I think that it's quite obvious that our schedule is backloaded here. Like, if you look up, obviously we're going to have Texas right around October 12th. That was like a given. But, Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, amongst those first four with Texas, comparison to Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU to end the year. Hopefully that gives us a good amount of time to get our bearings in a new conference and play some of like the middle tiered opponents before we hit those heavy hitters like Alabama and LSU.
Well, Jamison, you can't discount, or you can't. You're right. It is pretty backloaded. We do have the mighty Maine Bears coming to town. Anyways, so I just realized for the for those of you who haven't seen it, listening on podcast and can't visually see it on YouTube. This is the SEC schedule. September 21st, home against Tennessee. September 28th, on the road in Auburn. That's OU's first SEC road trip. Then they play Texas on its traditional second weekend of October slot after a bye week. Return home to Norman to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks at home. Then they head back on the road to Oxford, hitting up the Grove to play Ole Miss on October 26th. Next week is back in Norman. It's not on the graphic, but they play the Maine Black Bears, or just the Bears. I don't know. I don't know what type of bear they are, Jamison.
I have no idea. I can't help you.
I don't know. Fair enough. Which is
It's Black Bears.
Hey, Black Bears. Okay, well, there you go. Which bear is strongest? Or which bear is best? Not the main one, probably. But anyways, after our initiation into the SEC garbage week, we then go on the road to take on the Missouri Tigers, heading back to Columbia. Old Big 8, Big 12 matchup there. Nostalgia of Chase Daniel picking his nose, I'm sure, flashing through your mind right now, thinking about that. And then then a bye week, which we have two byes. Very weird. We'll talk about that. November 23rd, the game we're all excited for, senior night. Someone's going to get the Don Key Award before an Alabama game, which is insane. I don't want to sound like
really weird.
I don't want to sound like those BYU guys who got their schedule on and were excited about OU on senior night, but that's going to be pretty damn neat to see OU Alabama. That's pretty peak. And then Thanksgiving weekend, rivalry weekend usually. Well, I don't know why this is the case, but here it is. LSU on November 30th, heading to Baton Rouge to close out the season. So yeah, Jamison, massive slate here. It's bonkers. So, how do we want to do this? Do we want to go with like a superlative approach? Do we want to go like one by one? What are your thoughts?
No, we already had the one by one on the SEC schedule release. If anyone was on SEC Network, they're like, and we're going to start
so bad
from week one. And I was like, oh my God.
We knew the non-conferences already.
And there was one moment where Joey Galloway made a mention. He's like, yeah, I'm really surprised to see this. And I'm like, that has been released for over a month now, Joey. How did you survive the ESPN cuts? I don't know. This man continues to keep bouncing back up.
What exec does he have blackmail on? For real? Like, that, it just makes no sense. No sense.
It's like 90% of the personalities that we love at ESPN just go to the wayside, but somehow Joey just continues to stay alive.
I don't know. He just keeps on rolling, I suppose. Let's just start from we're not going to go in order, but we have to talk about the SEC opener. Josh Heupel coming to Norman. Element of revenge, maybe. I know they kind of touched on that, obviously. This is an exciting one because I feel like we have a little bit of, background with them. Obviously, that 2015 Classic where Sterling Shepard leaped over a dude at Neyland. That dances through your head. Are you excited to play the Vols again?
Yeah, whenever you're looking at the SEC schedule, I'm more excited about other games because one, I feel like the away games will always be more fun because you get to go to enemy territory and it's another aspect of something new. But also, with Tennessee being a game that we played in the past 10 years during the regular season, it kind of does take the shine away. But, the Josh Heupel story will make things fun. And there's this kind of like weird thing with him where I can't really get a grasp and I feel like he doesn't truly have his internal opinion. Does he have, good thoughts about the University of Oklahoma? Like he's shown up to some events, but there obviously is a little bit of weirdness between the two people. So we'll see how this game goes in Norman. I think it'll be a pretty fun one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And, it seems like some of that bad blood is getting patched up a bit, which is great. But, it's going to be interesting to say the least. Josh Heupel, obviously a favored son in Norman, and it's going to be interesting to see if they do anything to, I don't know. I don't know if he gets a tribute video. We don't really do that.
I think he will.
Yeah.
Or not like some video, because that's more of like, like an NBA thing. But there will be some kind of like a pregame or something. There's got to be.
For sure. Yeah. And I think overall it's interesting because there are only two teams on this slate that we hadn't played in the past 20 years in South Carolina and Ole Miss. So a lot of familiarity here. Excited about the road trip to Auburn. I think that's a great way to start. Hugh Freeze's team. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, without a doubt, going to Auburn. It's one of those where it's like a perfect example of it's an insane environment. You're getting thrown into the fire, but also Auburn's not great. But we have seen what they can do. Obviously, they had Alabama dead to rights the last time we saw them. So I think that'll be a fun one. That's going to be a really fun one.
Yeah, kind of going to an iconic stadium is your first away game, but also an opponent at the same time that's been kind of not, as good as we usually thought they were. I feel like that's a perfect mixture of what Oklahoma needs in this kind of jump into the SEC. Auburn is a big time program, but they're on the down years right now. So perfect situation. I think, we get the Tennessee game at home. First SEC game at home with a lot of meaning to it, and then going on the road to an Auburn team that's still good, but at the same time is going the wrong direction in terms of up and down. Honestly, I wouldn't be happier moving into Texas weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one point I want to kind of talk about before we get to Texas. But, when we saw the opponents, we're like, oh man, OU got really screwed on the schedule here because of the opponents. But in terms of schedule structure, I actually really like it. You get a bye before Texas and you get a bye before Alabama. Your two biggest games on the schedule, which in my opinion is pretty delightful, honestly.
Yeah. And one thing we've realized very easily with the college football playoff in terms of SEC opponents, if they have a team that starts off hot and does well at the beginning of the year, their schedule, at the end of the year, if it's tough, the opinions don't change too much in the CFP committee. It seems like a lot of those teams, like Ole Miss, for example, this year, started off really hot and then played a tough game versus Alabama. They were kind of held in higher thoughts, even though they kind of sputtered at the end of the season. So in terms of a backloaded versus front-loaded in the SEC, I'd rather have a backloaded schedule.
Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously the debate of, oh, have they gotten tired, or like the grind it takes on you and the physicality and all that. But, just in terms of adapting to it, I think that's important. I mean, think about Texas A&M's first year. They started pretty hot with like Florida at home, lost that one, but the rest of the year they were hot as hell and were really good, beating Alabama on the road. You want to be playing your best ball at the end of the year, and that's what I think OU has a chance to do there.
Yeah. Question with Texas, moving on, Bobby. It's now that we're in the SEC and we have different time slots, is there any kind of scenario, or if there's something that I missed, where it's not going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff?
So, and I'm sure they might be talking about times right now. I don't know. I don't have the SEC network on, but they have talked when this move is announced, Sankey and Castiglione and all that, about making this one that legendary vaunted 2:30 kickoff in the SEC.
Boo.
I personally don't like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. That game should be at 11 a.m., crack of dawn,
Corn
all of
dogs
that.
are a breakfast food, not a lunch food.
Exactly. Exactly. And the fair is so much more hectic in the morning when everyone has had time to get there and it's just like at peak capacity. Because in the morning, it's like there's some people who still haven't gotten there, who just want to show up just straight at the game. They don't want to do the fair before. But when you have enough time, it just loads out everything. It's not, that's a tough position to be in.
And then there's still some Texas folk, and every single year I see it,
Of
I'm just
course.
like completely just flabbergasted. I'm like, why are you here right now? I don't understand everyone's schedule. You only get some Saturdays off, but like you chose to come on this day. Like,
Just like the
woof.
generic people who come hang out. Yeah, I don't get it. But
I'm like, good for y'all if y'all like crowds. All right.
it's just a strange move on that end. But okay, so let's move on.
I guess we are going to go in order. Screw
no,
it.
I don't want to move on because I actually have a quick thing to say about Texas. Them having OU and Georgia back to back is
Yeah, that's
absolutely
tough.
brutal. Oh man, like their teams aren't are the teams they have are lighter.
They get the
But
bye
that
week,
is
though, right?
I mean, yeah, they get a bye week before OU, but they have to play OU and Georgia back to back, which is
Yeah.
hellish. And then to make matters worse, I'm pretty sure that Paul Feinbaum of all people actually mentioned it. That's also F1 weekend in Austin. So Georgia fans, woof. No, that was not meant to be a dog pun. Oh my god. That's gonna be so brutal to get a hotel room for, and best of luck to you on that
Yeah.
one.
That's I didn't even think about the hotels too. I was just thinking about how it's going to be so fun, but like honestly, it's already hard enough with like Austin, it's real estate.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really know if there's anything to say about South Carolina. Shane Beamer, yay, whatever. That'll be neat, I guess. Nice little appetizer after Texas. That's neat. And then you go on the road for. I mean, they're gone for major games. Most of that back half going to the Grove. That'll be. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about how fun that'll be. Ty says it's overrated, I think. I can't remember. Or it might be someone else who says it's overrated. I'm not sure. Missouri.
I can't keep
I don't know.
keep up with his hater takes anyways.
Yeah, I can't track the hater takes. Okay, so I'll ask you this. Are you gonna try to go to the Grove? Are you interested in Ole Miss?
So we originally were planning on it because I think obviously, going to these games in a couple years from now, whenever we get the chance to play them on the road again, and obviously the way the SEC schedule is set up, you don't really truly know when the next time you'll get this team on the road. But if there's a time to go, it's this season because the shine of going somewhere whenever you're the newbie in this conference will make it even more fun for you. So you're looking at these away games. You're looking at, Missouri and Ole Miss and LSU and Auburn. And you're like, I don't know how I can go to all of these, but in all honesty, if you have the means and you have the time off, like this will be your greatest return of how much you enjoy the trip because of just this being all new to you. Once you watch them and you're in the SEC for a couple of years, that shine isn't going to be as shiny.
Right. No, I agree. I think that is definitely one you can't miss. You have to take that one up just now because again, we don't know what it's going to be like. We don't this is the 1 year like gap schedule of 8 teams. And yeah, gotta get your trip to the Grove in now before things go crazy again.
Yeah. Ashley has friends with a tailgate in Ole Miss, and she was so excited to watch this because she is like, going to hang out and go to the tailgate with Ole Miss. She texts them, and they go, "Oh no, that's Taylor Swift weekend," and I was like, "Oh,
I thought it just meant more. Meant more. That's brutal."
I'm like, well, that shouldn't hold us back, but it could.
It's going to hold Ashley back at least, but
she's not a Swiftie, but in terms of not having a tailgate to go to,
exactly.
It takes her.
That's just going to make her hate Taylor Swift even more.
Yes. We're not haters here. I don't want to get anyone in the comments here.
No.
That sets up a whole algorithm.
Bad views.
Do not do that.
No, I saw it tick up too after we started talking about Taylor Swift. That's not good. Okay, so I gotta say, let's talk about. I just want to say, Missouri, you should have been Thanksgiving weekend.
Why
Damn it.
not? Why aren't they?
I don't know. What it makes so much sense. It's a Big 8 deal. A lot of people have kind of rumored that it would be like kind of our Thanksgiving thing. Why is it doing what's it doing in November 9th? My heart literally dropped seeing it because that's like the one road game I could do without. I do not care about going to Columbia at all. Like I do not care about that. We're going to play them a lot. We talk about uncertainty about Ole Miss. Missouri is like almost assuredly going to be a year-by-year opponent for OU just because of the history. They finally have a friend now in the SEC. They never made any sense. What the hell at Arlington? What the hell's a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? That's Missouri in the SEC. But now they have a little bit of a bridge, so we're gonna get them a lot. So why are we putting them here on the weekend where people can't really travel? It's awful.
Yeah, I'm very confused about it because it made sense as kind of like our shoe-in second rivalry within the conference, because LSU, I get that because there is some kind of bad blood between our fan bases in this 21st century. But Missouri is an open slot for it to develop a relationship in terms of a rivalry. We already have the recruiting thing that's been going on recently. Our fan bases have been at each other's necks, at the Williams Nwaneri and then Luther Burden, and then a little bit of Caden Green going on right now. We're not going to get into that, but still,
that's a whole deal.
We've been at war recently, so putting them on a rivalry week would have made sense. And I don't know how consistent our schedule is going to be with Missouri, but I feel like that's a big missed opportunity. Is the SEC trying to make an LSU-Oklahoma rivalry with this? Or is this just they threw it in this time slot and they didn't really think much about that?
I don't really know. Because honestly, I thought LSU, like the battle for the boot with LSU and Arkansas would have gone there. In that Thanksgiving slot. It makes so much sense.
LSU has so many rivalries already.
Yeah. Why are we shoehorning an OU one in here? We played twice. We haven't the history's not all that deep. I mean, when we played in big games, but it's not like a back and forth thing, unless you want to count like the 1950 win or whatever. So it's just silly.
It's really disappointing. But I mean, the Missouri game will be a fun one to watch on TV. That will be a very good game. This Missouri team is legit and they're moving in the right direction. Even though Eli Drinkwitz is an absolute, I'm not going to even say a word. Yes, I can't think of a unique word for him because he's such
bozo.
Yes, all of those. Create a superlative of those. He's just a weirdo.
Charlatan.
I like charlatan. Let's move on with that one.
He is a charlatan.
Yes. Man, it would just been nice to play him on November 30th, wouldn't it? It would have been really nice to play them right before postseason.
I hate it. But yeah, I don't know. And I gotta say, what is the last game that has felt as big as OU Alabama on the 23rd?
In terms of
in Norman.
Norman game, that is, you have to think about it because you have whenever I think about these bigger games, I think about, the Ohio State game that we had in Norman and then Notre Dame as well.
Big game.
Yes. But that Notre Dame game was a while back,
Yeah. I mean, over 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Unless I'm missing something, it's got to be the Ohio State game, and that was a non-con game.
That was a non-con in 2016, so at this point, it'll be 8 years since that game, which is, I mean, that just illustrates everything about this OU schedule in the past, and how much of a breath of fresh air this is, even though it's pretty light. Obviously 8 conference games, you lose you have an uneven balance between road and away, with Texas taking up one of those home games this year. But overall, getting Alabama on there, this being a week year where it's Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, that shows a lot.
Yeah, and I guess another thing about the schedule that kind of stands out, we just got hit. We're kind of talking about Thanksgiving week with the LSU game. We got hit with the Friday game this year. We already had our qualms about that Friday game, how it's really not our favorite. Unless they change something, which they did do a couple years ago, 2 years ago, they did change our Iowa State game away from a Thursday back to a Saturday. Um, we are not pegged for that weird Friday slot with LSU.
Yeah, we didn't get hit with that, which is good. I'm fine with
Mhm.
that. I didn't love the Black Friday thing, and I'm glad to see that not continue. So
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
but
I'm
yeah,
cool with it.
let's go back to Alabama and talking about that game. And obviously, when everyone was talking about the move to the SEC, their mind first goes to Alabama. That's just the way the SEC has worked recently. Everyone just thinks the SEC logo and Alabama, even though Georgia's been the powerhouse as of recently, and obviously Alabama won the SEC championship, but like still, everyone thinks Alabama. And getting them at home first in November 23rd, I think that is such a big time game to have, coming off that bye. And then if we can get that momentum win, because there's a chance we could absolutely win that game at home. Duh. It's a very
Hmm.
winnable game whenever you play that game at home.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
would be so big for momentum moving forward. And who knows what that could unlock.
Right, and I mean, it's enormous. Not only big for momentum and big for atmosphere. You have to imagine this is a night game. Um,
Oh, there's no doubt.
no
There's
way it's not.
0% chance that's going to be anything other than a night game.
Right. This
But
schedule is
honestly, can't I mean 2:30 slots too, but I mean they're moving away from the CBS. Like how is that gonna work really with
a
their time slots, Bobby?
so ESPN and ABC. The 2:30 thing is an SEC thing. It's not a CBS
It's an
thing
SEC thing.
specifically.
Okay.
The SEC specifically like cherishes and wants to keep 2:30 as the slot. That is their primetime slot. They're
Hmm.
still living and dying on it.
That's good.
They're
I'm
carrying that
totally fine
over.
with that. We love that
Two
time
thirties
slot.
are the best. That's the best time slot, anyways. I love it.
Hmm.
Not too early, not too late. Perfect, perfect. Usually great weather. It's awesome. Um, Even though Big Ten starting to get CBS, yeah, this is going to be like 2:30. These matchups are going to win out. And the SEC, one thing I love about them, they're not afraid. They're not going to back down to any other matchup or any other league. They're going to just flat out be like, hey, we have the better matchup every time because they do.
Yeah.
Um,
So that weekend, Bobby. So we have Alabama, OU, Arkansas, Law Tech, nothing. Auburn, Texas A&M, nothing. Florida, Ole Miss, nothing. Georgia, UMass, nothing. Kentucky, Texas, nothing. LSU, Vanderbilt, nothing. Florida, Ole Miss, could that be the 2:30 slot? Missouri, Mississippi State, nothing.
yeah, and they've mentioned
Wofford, South Carolina, Tennessee, UTEP.
yeah,
I think I said it all. So that is the shining game.
yeah, and they have mentioned that they might flex some games from 2:30 to prime time if they felt like it makes sense, and I feel like that would make sense for a night game. It's too cinematic to not. I think, um, and it's going to be a great one. Um, we've talked on this show before about how great that home and home was in the early 2000s. Alabama Alabama fans glow a lot about it. OU fans glow a lot about their trip to Tuscaloosa. There's a lot of mutual respect there, and I think that it's just going to be an excellent game. Really exciting to have that one midseason. Um, and again, Alabama. This has to be weird for them having to go on the road in Norman the week before the Iron Bowl. Woof, that's brutal.
Yeah. No, there's not going to be an opportunity for them to look ahead to the Iron Bowl. And who knows how Auburn goes. And, it could be another season like this where they're kind of scrapping around 500. But still, like obviously their minds are going to be on that rivalry game. Man, does that make it just so great to have it November 23rd? I'm honestly, if you, Bobby, just let's play a little bit of a game here. And obviously we know we'd switch up the Missouri, but if you could switch up the schedule, would you how much would you change for OU in terms of making your perfect schedule for OU? And I'm not saying the teams, I'm just talking about the order.
So I, with all due respect to how epic that late November clash against Alabama is, I'd move it to late October. I think. I think the weather is a little bit nicer. late November in Oklahoma, you're really flipping a coin on to whether or not this is garbage or not.
Okay.
And frankly, we kind of had an idea we were bouncing around about like camping, like in the on the tailgate spot the night before Alabama. That might not be possible. So that selfishly is probably the only thing I would change outside of the obvious, send Missouri to the Thanksgiving gulag. But that's the only thing I personally would change. What about you?
Yeah, you were thinking from a fan's perspective. I was thinking from a competitive perspective of OU and their ability to win.
Were you asking me from a competitive perspective and I just ignored it?
I guess no. I really didn't specify. I guess I was in just my mindset and I didn't. I don't know. We were just on two different pages.
Well,
I think that's good.
Here,
I think that's totally good.
Yeah.
If you're talking about from a competitive standpoint, I honestly would have had it Tennessee starting at home because I'd want a home game to start. I'd want something good enough where it's a competitive matchup, but not one of our top tier. So at the home, it's only South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. I don't want to start with Alabama. So I think
there was a rumor that would be the case, and I thought I wanted it. I thought I wanted the big one, but I think splitting it up where you have the big SEC opener, and then you have the Alabama game, it gives you two big ones. Instead of consolidating it into one.
So. Yeah. So I would want Tennessee week 1. Like I said earlier in the show, I'd want for my first road game to be a big time opponent. In terms of like a fun atmosphere, but something that's very winnable. Of our away games, we have Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, Auburn. I think Auburn's perfect right there. Absolutely perfect. And then getting a bye before Texas, perfect. Then coming off Texas, people talk about hangovers all the time. South Carolina, great game to kind of help you away from a hangover.
Probably the easiest team on our schedule.
Yes. Oh, probably.
By far.
In terms of in conference. Yes, you could argue with Auburn, but right. South Carolina is the way they've looked at the end of the season, and then Spencer Rattler leaving. Everyone's going to clown Spencer Rattler, but still, that's a brand new quarterback into a system that has been quite. What's the word? I need another word guy.
Hot and cold.
I need my word guy to come back and help me. Yes, we're going to go with that one.
Yeah, but yes, you can't use the term bipolar, erratic. But yeah, that.
But it kind of has been.
Yeah.
So, and then right after that, I really just in terms of this schedule, I'd only switch Missouri and LSU. That's the only thing from a competitive standpoint. I love the way that it worked out for us.
I'd also say from a fan perspective, I think it worked out too, because you have one SEC home game a month, really. Not Texas. We don't count that obviously, but you get a game in Norman, mid-late September. You get a game in Norman mid-late October, and then you get a game in Norman mid-late November. It's perfect. It just feels balanced. It feels fair. Feels right. I love it. We don't have. We do have two. We don't have two road games back to back, do we? Yeah, because there's that main game. And 1982 I was asking about that main game. It's in between Ole Miss and Missouri on November 2nd. It's perfectly balanced. I love it.
And from a fan's perspective, there's some people that get a little bit fatigued during the season, especially in October, November. There's people that, want to go to Thunder games and kind of playing the game of like Oklahoma City Thunder plus Oklahoma Sooners. Not having a game back-to-back weeks really does make things a little bit more special and doesn't fatigue some of our older fans we just went to a game last week.
Well, and frankly too, I think having a lot of big games late, like if we all know and probably expect there's going to be some growing pains in the SEC, tougher schedule. They're going to trip up more. If you're expecting OU to go 13-0, you're just probably being unrealistic with yourself, just frankly. So if OU is dancing around a college football playoff run, that sort of thing, but not like maybe probably out of the CFP, you still have something to play for because you have really cool games. Yep. You're not giving up on the season because it's BYU and there's nothing to play for. It's like, no, we want to beat Alabama. No, we want to beat LSU and Baton Rouge.
Big time point.
There's a lot of you have that motivation factor throughout the season. And I think that's really fun. And I think that's just a part of the whole SEC thing is every single week you're going to be a little nervous. I don't think there's a single team on the schedule, barring South Carolina, where you think OU is going to come in and just smack them. You know, so I think obviously non-conference those don't count. I mean, they do count. We can talk about them. We've known about them. But I think that little bit of fear, I think, adds a little bit of fun. It's way more fun than, you have two outcomes, either be satisfied or just like content that we won, or heartbroken and pissed that you lost, or didn't play well enough and still won. So it's a better alternative. I like it. I'm for it. And seeing it all laid out like this, it's going to be a great, great fall in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm really excited.
Yeah, like you said too, what happens if we lose games to, let's play hypothetical, we lose games Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri. That is, 3 of 4 games right there, or I guess 3 of 5 games right there. And that's quite a horrible stretch that we're going through. You have big time redemption in terms of what the national public views of you whenever you go play that Alabama game and you play the LSU game. It is absolute redemption. And also to prove yourself, it's a win-win to have those games at the end.
Yeah. And, we're making CFP cases, getting big games at the end. I think that's part of it too, I suppose. You have more resume building points.
Recency bias is very, very strong in the
clearly
playoffs. And to be honest, I already talked about how primacy bias is also a big thing. I think that they don't care about the middle. I think that's just what the CFP is. They care about nothing in the middle, just the beginning and the end.
Clearly. Yeah. And even the beginning sometimes, they completely forgot that LSU lost to Florida State, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. So, Jamison, I don't know. I want to ask you a question. Let's go through it. As OU structured right now. And let's assume OU wins all the non-conference games. No offense to Houston. No offense. Willie Fritz, he's coming to Norman regardless, apparently. No longer at Tulane, but now at Houston. No offense to Willie Fritz. No offense to Tulane. Both great, really solid programs. Could be fun, but if we lose that, then we're in trouble. Let's assume we win out all the non-conferences.
Yeah.
And let's go game by game. Let's just go game by game. Tennessee, win or loss?
I think it's a win. I think it's too big of an opportunity as your first SEC game with a lot of things going on right there. And Tennessee is a very good program. It's going to be a very, very good game, but I think we can edge it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive, excellent football game.
It'll be the game that we actually know Jackson Arnold is a huge competitor. We believe it right now, but we will know it in that game.
Exactly. I agree. Auburn on the road.
I think we win that game too. I don't like the way that this Auburn football program has been going. It's gonna be tough just because their environment, but I think we win.
I think it's shaky. I think there are times of it being difficult, but again, Hugh Freeze, I don't trust the man really. He might change things. We'll see. I don't really know. But I'm out on Auburn. I think you can get this first road win. Next, Texas and the Cotton Bowl.
Coin flip. It's what it is every single year. Coin flip with the way Texas has been playing. It's you could tell. I could say win, you could say loss. It's honestly that's TBD.
We'll put it in the TBD column. I agree. South Carolina home.
W.
Win.
Easy.
Win. Ole Miss on the road.
I don't know. What do you think? You go first.
I'll go first on the. Wait, is Dart still gonna be there, right?
I think he's deciding.
So I'll say this: Dart there. I think we lose this one, but I don't know. Lane Kiffin teams, I still don't believe in them really, and I think Brent and that OU team is just going to keep getting better. I'm going to go with the Sooners. Why not?
Yeah,
but I see this one being could very much be a loss. This is a little coin flippy. It's myself.
I think Dart will end up coming back. Just if you're talking about quarterback classes, you already see it with with Quinn Ewers, guys like Jackson Dart. You going out in this quarterback class is not asking for much if you were trying to have NFL aspirations. I feel like he'll be there, and Ole Miss is going to be about where they were this season. It's going to be a really tough game. I think that we might have a loss here.
Yeah, You know what? I'm going to count that as a loss as well. Yeah, it just seems like a tough spot. All right, November 9th, Missouri on the road in Columbia. Last time the Sooners played here, that was a loss. I'm sure you remember.
Yes,
Blaine
of course I
Gabbert,
do.
heartbreaking times. I think we were at a Heritage Hall Halloween
That's
party
exactly where we
in
were.
middle school, and I remember just not having a good time at all. It was awful.
And that game is going to be, I'm going to have so much anxiety watching that game just because of the recruiting angle, because there's so much pent up anger between our fan bases right now with this whole like NIL poach thing. And, is Caden Green, obviously, it's the writing's on the wall there. If he ends up going to Missouri, it's going to really be quite suspicious. Obviously, there's other teams out there that are probably giving him offers too. It's probably not just Missouri, but that really is the one that makes sense. We've heard of Oregon. There's going to be other teams now that he's in the portal. He's going to get monster offers. A guy that has that much, experience and potential at the offensive line position, as young as he is. He's going to get a god offer. But I'm going to be honest with you, Bobby. The way this offense is with Missouri, with Luther Burden, I feel like he's been so pivotal for them. And I would assume, I'm still trying to pick up on everybody's, opting in and opting out and everything. Is Luther Burden going to leave? So he's a sophomore.
True.
So he's not.
Sophomore?
Shoot. So he's a true sophomore. So he's going to be there. Pretty sure he's a true sophomore. Yep. So he's going to be there. That's going to suck. They're going to have another potent offense because he's going to be an absolute beast of a man next year.
It's going to be all the guys we missed on kicking our ass, isn't it?
Yeah. You would hope that it's not Nwaneri like going out there as a true freshman and beasting us, but that kid is so good. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Luther Burden's going to have the Burden's going to have a freaking day on his. He's going to have 150 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, Bobby, I'm gonna say Missouri is a loss.
It feels like a loss. It's one of those that just feels like it, because of the bad blood, because of the history. That just feels like a proper, like perfectly brewed up to be a loss. So I'm gonna consider that a loss as well. But we'll see. 23rd, Alabama at home.
Yeah, I think we can win this one. Just for the sake of me being pessimistic with Ole Miss and Missouri. Give me a win here. Would I say I'm projecting us to be the betting line favorite in this game? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that, but screw it. If I'm worried about Ole Miss and Missouri's losses, give me a win versus Alabama.
I'll put it this way. I don't see us losing 3 straight, but with a bye week before, Alabama has the Iron Bowl ahead. Are they going to be that hyped to come to Norman? Like, I don't know. Does Alabama get excited for things? I'm not sure. I will say Nick Saban in November, great track record. He doesn't tend to lose unless it's on the plains or to Joe Burrow. It's either he beats Auburn or loses to Auburn or lost to Joe Burrow that one time.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And like looking at that line just like ahead of time, I don't know how both teams are going to perform during the season, but you'd think it'd be like a touchdown line for Alabama.
Well, and also think about this. Nobody knows. Nobody schemed against Alabama in bigger games more than Brent Venables, really. So I think there's an element there. We've seen how this OU team can act when they're really motivated, when they're really fired up for an opponent. I'm gonna give OU the win here. I don't know if that's too goonery or too homerish, but yeah, I could see it. And it's also Milroe should be back at this point, I would imagine. And I don't know. I see Milroe being a bit erratic at times. So
I don't know. I really liked Milroe, even whenever he got benched. I'm kind of on the other side of that argument. I've always thought he was pretty good, and they just soured on him way too quickly.
Fair. That's fair.
And obviously, my opinions of him was a little bit higher just because the comparison value was Tyler Buckner, and I do not think he's that good of a quarterback. But still, I think, we say this all the time as OU fans, and I'm sure so many fan bases say this. I think that's just football in general. Mobile quarterbacks, Bobby. Does this football team do well versus them?
No.
Yeah.
No. We let the Bean Man run over us. It was not great.
Exactly.
And then wrapping it up, LSU on the road.
That's a loss. I'm not even gonna think about that one.
I
That's
can't
just straight up.
mentally imagine us beating LSU like
No,
ever.
no, we can't lose. We can't win in Louisiana.
No, it's going to be tough. I already know if I find a way to get to that game, you're gonna know the second you hear call in Baton Rouge before the game. You're like, oh, we're screwed. We're so screwed. And again, Daniels should be gone, right?
Yeah, he's definitely
he's gone. Yeah, so Daniels is gone. They'll have to replace a new quarterback. I don't know. OU against Brian Kelly, typically pretty good, but that environment's gonna be a little much. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a loss. So 9-3 season for OU. Honestly, 9-3 season for OU and year one of the SEC, I think would be a massive success, all things considered. I know that's not where you want to end up, but considering the draw we got overall, I think that would be a win if that Texas game flipped the right way.
I think Jaden Daniels actually could come back. Now that I think about it, with the NIL, I could see the way they've worshipped him in LSU. I could see him coming back.
Yeah.
TBD.
Yeah, because
I don't think either way, it's an L. I don't just OU and Louisiana. I just don't think mix, and obviously my sample size is very low, but still, it's just fried into my brain.
No, yeah, I mean it's LSU. We've seen them. We just both of us attended that Peach Bowl. I can't imagine those colors of that logo losing to us after that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that flips, but I don't know.
I think that's a 3 or 4 loss season is what's on the horizon for us.
And in a weird way, like a 3-loss season for OU, with this type of schedule, if things shake out differently, if teams pick up more losses, that's like a fringe playoff spot.
It's going to be fringe. Absolutely, it's going to be fringe, and it's going to be dependent on our quality wins of which wins do we get. Did we end up beating Texas and then dropping like a Auburn, Ole Miss, and Alabama or something like that? We need to make sure that if we did have the 3 wins, like we'd have to have a big time. We'd have to either beat Texas or Alabama, and either of those teams would have to be a top 4 team in the country.
Yeah, I mean you'd have to beat both. Which is crazy. You'd have to beat both or be better on the road. And I mean, hell, OU wasn't that great on the road this year, I would say. So
no,
look, if we're struggling in Provo and a little in Cincinnati and Lawrence, Kansas, with a bunch of people who have already gone home mostly, just you got another thing coming. So probably like an Outback Bowl bid. Caleb in the comments was projecting an Outback Bowl. Which,
I mean, if we go 9-2 in the regular season, we're making the playoffs.
Well, that math isn't mathing though a little bit. So, because we would have more than that, more games than that.
Yeah, if we only have two losses, yes.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. 2-loss season, OU gets in. I think that's the case regardless.
Because even if it's a bad loss and we have 2 losses, we would have a good win either versus Texas, Alabama. And if we have 2 losses and our losses are Texas, Alabama, we lost to 2 really good teams. It's straight up.
Yeah, and clearly they care about that. So I think the schedule is difficult but maneuverable. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out for OU though. Definitely going to be nice to break in that fresh offensive line with 0 returning starters against a very light start. A very light start to the season there. Not too shabby, if you ask me. So,
oh Lord, please transfer portal giveth. Just take us.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching live, Jamison, we're about to bounce to the bowls. I think we've kind of squeezed this orange. I don't know. You have any final thoughts for year one of the SEC?
No, I really don't. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go to games if you can. Like I said earlier in this podcast, these games are really fun because it's brand new. And you'll say like, oh, I can go to them. We'll have other opportunities down the line. These games this season will be the most fun just because it's a new experience. So go if you can.
Yeah. Soak up those novel experiences for sure. So All right. Well, that's all I really have for this. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's exciting. It's great that the 12-team playoff has started because I don't know how OU could win enough games to get into a 4-team potentially going forward in the SEC. They might some years, but it's going to be a lot easier to get in the CFP. And I'll put it this way too: if OU hosts a game, I would rather host a game than get a bye just for the experience.
Oh, so fun. So fun. I'm legitimately making my holiday call schedule for hospital weeks right now. And I'm looking at those weekends right now of the potential of hosting for a college foottle playoff
It'd be
game.
so
It's
fun.
just
It'd
that
be
is
so fun.
the game that you'd want to go to. If you can't make it to any of these games in the regular season, at least make sure you can try to get out to one of those playoff ones.
But also maybe
hosting.
Yeah, I would if OU's undefeated through Carolina, then maybe start thinking about it. But you know, we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be a fun off season. Gonna be excited to dream, excited to talk about the SEC. And it feels real now. It feels really real looking at these dates. So very excited for it to get closer. Well, if you're watching live, we're about to hop off of this one and hop onto our bowl pick show. We're going to just be covering the first 9 games of the season. So should be quick, should be easy, you know, and look, if y'all don't know how to pick through some of these games, that's the show you want to listen to. Because we have guys who have been watching, you know, who know what to think about Appalachian State and, you know, have feelings about Jacksonville State. So we're and, you know, New Mexico State. We know they're
we definitely got feelings about New Mexico State.
We do. So make sure to jump in on that. And yeah, if you're watching on podcast, we have that link. We have that link still there to join Bowl Mania. So if you do that, use the code MLADY, MLADY, and sign up. We're giving away free money. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna give away $150.
Oh my God! You were about to say 100. I was about to say, oh my God, 150.
Yeah. We're giving away 150. Let's go nuts.
Man,
but also this time, this time, if I win, I keep it. So yeah.
Yes, if you're subscribed to us right now and get into our bowl entry, that is 150, and we ain't giving it to you unless you're subscribed to our YouTube page.
Of course, yeah. No, you have to be subscribed. So, yeah, cool. Well, that's it. We will see you on the bowl picks coming up next. But until then, have a good one. Boomer Sooner, everybody.